Guruprasad Prabhu, can you just allow me to share the screen? Guruprasad Prabhu, can you just allow me to share the screen, please? Okay, Prabhuji is not listening. Okay, very good. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya
Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari
Gopijana Vallabha Girivardhari
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana
Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira
Vanachari
Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna
Tira Vanachari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya
Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari
Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jamuna Tira Vanachari Jamuna Tira Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopi Jana Vallabha Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Yashodanandana Braja Jana Ranjana Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna,
Hare Hare,
Hare Rama, Hare Rama,
Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna,
Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare,
Jaya Radha Landanishwar, Radha Landanishwar, Radhe Jaya
Radha Landanishwara, Radha Landanishwara, Radhe,
Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radhe
Jaya Radha Gokulananda, Radha Gokulananda, Radhe,
Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya
Jaya Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya Jaya
Hare Naam Sankirtan ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Jai Gaur Premanande. Hare Krishna everyone. So my obeisances to all the devotees who are gathered here today online and on Zoom as well as on YouTube. So my obeisances to all of you. I pray at your lotus feet that if you bless me, I can speak something about the glories of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Shilla Haridas Thakur. So I pray for your blessings. Uh, we'll start with the Mangala Charan and then we'll start our class today. Gunnar Prabhu, is it possible? Can you give me the share screen? Okay, I got it now, Prabhuji. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. 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 Om Gyantimirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yuta Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunathanvitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakhanvitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Deenabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Vancha Kalpatarubhyascha Kripa Sindhubhyeva cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ramo Rama Rama Hare 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 Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So, uh, so today we are celebrating the appearance of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. He is the uh, uh, guru of Srila Gaurkishada's Babaji Maharaj, Shiksha Guru. And Gaurkishada's Babaji Maharaj, his disciple called Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. In fact, he was the son of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur had many disciples. And his most famous disciple is His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. And under his shelter, under his disciples' protection, we are all practicing our spiritual life. and we have been blessed, by their mercy. So, in a spiritual terms, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is our great, 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 great grandfather in a spiritual term. So today we are celebrating his appearance day, and we'll try to dwell into the wonderful qualities of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and try to imbibe some of the wonderful qualities that he has in our personal life. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he is our Param Guru. So when we sing a full Guru Pranam mantra, this is the one of the prayers that we sing when it is the full Pranam mantra. So we won't go the full Pranam mantra, but we'll just recite this one prayer in glorification of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Namo Bhaktivinodaaya Satchidanandamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidanandamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate. Namo Bhaktivinodaya Satchidanandamine Gaura Shakti Swarupaya Rupanugavarayate. I offer my respectful obeisances unto Satchidanand Bhaktivinod, who is transcendental energy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, is a strict follower of the Goswamis, headed by Srila Rupa. Hare Krishna. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, is a Param Guru. So in his appearances we are celebrating today. So, and also we have a disappearance day celebration of Srila Haridas Thakur. So today, in the whatever time we have available, we'll try to, deep dive into these glories of these wonderful devotees. So today, when we talk about Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's an Acharya who is just present on this planet Earth, till about 100 years back. He disappeared from the planet Earth in 1914, so about 106 years back. He was there on this planet Earth. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, when I was preparing a class, I thought, how can I, follow up the wonderful classes that we have heard in last few weeks. We celebrated, Balram Jayanti, we celebrated Janmashtami, and since last 1 week, we have been talking about the appearance of Srimati Radharani. So, we had a wonderful class from Dinbandhu Prabhu earlier, and then Radha Raghunath Prabhu earlier from him. So I thought I'll just carry forward, the same theme that we have been discussing. So we all heard that Radharani, she is a very intimate devotee of Krishna, and then Krishna wanted to relish the transcendental mellows that Radharani is enjoying in his service. So for that purpose, Shri Krishna came as Lord Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu on this planet Earth. And then he established, the Sankirtan movement. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is nothing but the Krishna, but in the mood of Radharani. And then Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he wanted to, spread this holy name, the Sankirtan movement all over the world. And once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, disappeared from the planet Earth, the Sankirtan movement was practically not physically visible to the eyes of the people on this world. That's about 450 years about time. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he appeared on this planet Earth, and he revived the whole movement, the Sankirtan movement of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we understand from our scriptures that actually he is the Kamala Manjari from the pastimes of Krishna. Kamala Manjari is also one of the associates of Radharani. So Radharani sent, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent this very special devotee on this planet Earth to revive the spiritual, the Sankirtan movement. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he appeared in, I think, about 1838. and he was a uh, very influential. He was the district magistrate in the government, in the British government, and he was very, very influential. And he single-handedly, revived the whole Sankirtan movement, which was lost. But there are so many aspects of Bhaktivinoda Thakur, that we can talk today. But we'll talk about, as a grahastha, we are all, married people with our own family. We are on, responsibilities, and so many responsibilities that we have to look after. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur we can consider as the ideal grahastha, or the ideal family life, how we can learn from him. So he being a district magistrate, he was very influential, lot of responsibilities. Also, he had a very large family. He had about 8 or 9 children, and one of his famous child is Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So he had a very large family to look after. At the same time, he was preaching, very widely, and he was same time he was writing many books. At the same time, he composed so many bhajans. Uh, so one can say, to do all these things, just to give a full time, attend full attention to a spiritual life, it is impossible if we have other worldly responsibilities to do. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur showed that actually, if we put our proper effort and our intelligence, we can very nicely we can balance our spiritual life and material life. We can still do our preaching, we can still do our sadhana very nicely, and we can still very positively contribute to the Sankirtan movement. So many years back, I have some one devotee, he sent me a routine that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur would follow. Uh, that I somehow I managed to get it once again. So I'll go through that routine, in the screen here, and maybe we can discuss from this routine. So this is, the what you see on the screen is the routine of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So we'll go from the evening, how Bhaktivinoda Thakur will what he'll do from the evening. So from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m., in the evening time, he will take rest, just 2 hours of rest. Then at 10 p.m. he will wake up. Then he will write. He will write, commentaries, bhajans, and all spiritual writings, that he would do. For about 6 hours in the night, when everything is very peaceful and calm, he would write, for 6 hours from 10 p.m. to 4 p.m. Then 4 to 4:30, half an hour, he will just take a very small rest. Then 4:30 to 7 p.m. he will chant his japa. So about 2.5 hours he will chant his japa. Then from 7 to 7:30 a.m. he will do correspondence. So in those days, there was no emails or other digital items, but all the mails, all the letters that he had to write, he will look at those responsibilities within this half an hour. So a good lesson from all of us. Yes, we have to communicate with the world. We have so many nowadays, Facebook, WhatsApp, so many things are there, but no need to spend too much time. We have to spend some time and give it a dedicated time in a day, and then finish that and then move on. So about half an hour, he'll spend on correspondence. Then from 7:30 to 9:30, he will study Shastra. So and as a devotee, we always say, that we have to chant our japa and read Srila Prabhupada's book. Uh, we have to be very strong basis of reading. Then only we can be very strong. Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he followed the same rule. He studied the Shastra. Even though he was a self-realized, highly elevated devotee, still, he would, for 2 hours, he would read Shastra from 7:30 to 9:30. Then from 9:30 to 10, he will bathe and take simple prasadam, his breakfast prasadam. So within half an hour, within he will complete his bathing and take prasadam. Then from 10 to 1 o'clock, about 3 hours, he will go to the court and look at and look after his magistrate duties. Then 1 to 2 p.m. he'll come back home, and then take his lunch, and then do other homely activities. So just 1 hour. Uh, for your information, the British government, he laid a special rail line from the court to his house because he was such an important person that he had his own private train which would run only from his house to the court. So 1 hour he'll come back home and he'll just do his homely duties. Then again 2 to 5 he'll go to the court and do his magistrate duties. So 6 hours of very rigorous duties that he had to do, he was doing. Then 5 to 7, 5 o'clock come back home again, and then 5 to 7 he will translate Sanskrit Shastras to Bengali. Again spiritual activity. Huh? And so 1 hour, 2 hours he'll spend on that one. Then 7 to 8, he will take bath again and take simple prashadam. So just 1 hour, so if you see in the morning 9:30 to 10, half an hour, in the evening 7 to 8, he'll again. So these are, you can see, this is the only about 1.5 hour, he would just give to his personal maintenance. uh, and rest you can see, it is a whole day. Mostly, he's busy to his preaching activities and this translating of the books and writing. So this is the beautiful and very balanced schedule that Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to follow. So I don't know whether we can follow this routine, but we can of course take a inspiration that being a grahastha, being a family member, uh, we can still do our business and jobs and all the early duties that we have. At the same time, we can do our preaching, we can do our sadhana, and we can still do the services that our local temple and authorities want us to do. If at all, we do wonderful time management that how Bhaktivinoda Thakur used to do. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, so we can take inspiration about his daily schedule. And this is the house. What you see on the screen, it is he used to live. So this is called Swananda Sukhada. That Swanand Sukhada Kunj. That this house is still there. You can from Mayapur you can go take a boat, and I think it's called Godruma Dvip. So take a boat and walk for about 5 minutes, and you can come here. It's a beautiful temple, the Bhaktivinoda Thakur's deity is installed there, and then Gaur Gadadhar is there, and I think there is a samadhi of Gaur Krishnadas Babaji also there. So here, Bhaktivinoda Thakur was living, and I specially selected, this picture because if you see on the top, there's a grill, there's a window. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, while he was, meditating on how to revive Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's movement again, and he was thinking and thinking, and he said, and he also wanted to find out the appearance place, the place where Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, the Yoga Pit, where he took his birth, where he appeared. But over the years, the place that he was born, it was lost. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, because being a government servant, magistrate, he tried to look at the old maps and did his research, but he couldn't find. So one day, he was chanting his japa, standing on this balcony, and from this window, the other side of the Ganga river, he saw a big effulgence coming out, uh, and he couldn't, make out, why this big effulgence is coming. So next day morning, he took few of these associates, and he took up, his own guru, Srila Jagannathas Babaji Maharaj. At that time, Jagannathas Babaji Maharaj was quite old. He was so old he couldn't even walk, so he had to be carried in a basket. So he took Jagannathas Babaji Maharaj and his servants and everyone to this place, where this effulgence was coming, that he saw in the night. So he went there, and there was the whole place was just covered with the tulsi plants. Uh, and Jagannath Babaji Maharaj, as soon as his servant put his basket there, he just jumped out of the basket, and started dancing and chanting, And then Bhaktivinoda Thakur realized that yes, this is the place. Lord Chaitanya, he appeared on this place. That place is called Yoga Pit. There's a beautiful temple there right now. When devotee goes to Mayapur, he can go there. There is a neem tree under which Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, and the reason he's called Nimai. So because of the Bhaktivinoda Thakur, we have this the blessings of visiting this place called Yoga Pit, the place of appearance of Mahaprabhu. And also, many years back when we went to a yatra, in fact, every yatra that we go, we make sure that we definitely without fail, we visit this place, Swanand Sukhada Kunj. It is a very special place for many reasons. One reason is that, of course, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he discovered, he had the vision of yoga fit from the same place. And also, Radhanath Maharaj in one of his class described that this place is very important. Why? Because Bhaktivinoda Thakur was here. Then, his son, Bhaktisan Sari Thakur, he also grew up here. Then, Srila Gaur Krishnadas Babaji Maharaj, he would come, and discuss Krishna Katha, and come and meet Bhaktivinoda Thakur at this place. And also, Jagannadas Babaji Maharaj also would come, and associate with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And many of the Vaishnava Acharyas, they would come, and associate with Bhaktivinoda Thakur. So out of all Guru Parampara, above Srila Prabhupada, all four Guru Parampara, all four Acharyas, they used to assemble here at this place and discuss Krishna Katha. So this place is really surcharged, with the power of Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur, Srila Gaurkesar Babaji Maharaj, and Srila Jagannath Babaji Maharaj. So it's a very potent place, and whenever devotees goes there, they go here and spend a very good quality time. You can chant a very nice round here. It's a very quiet, very sweet, very peaceful place. It is once you go there, you can find out, that actually it is a spiritual place. It's not a material place. And there's one incident that I would personally had, was witnessed. That some years back, I went there and there were many devotees from many countries. They were there, and if you all remember, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he proclaimed once, the day will come, that devotees from Europe and America and Australia and Canada and Africa and India and all the places, they would come, and they will chant the name of Gauranga, and then they'll chant and dance here. So that was the prediction of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And we can see now, that Mayapur is coming up so nicely. We have a temple of Vedic Planetarium, is nearly ready. And devotees are just giving, the final touches, and within a few years, it will be ready for, for the devotees to go and take this beautiful darshan of Panchatattva and Radha Madhava Sakhi and Narsingadev, and this is the temple according to the wish of Srila Prabhupada, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, Bhaktisiddhanta Sri Thakur, and all our acharyas, and especially Srila Nityanand Prabhu and Jiva Goswami. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he predicted that devotees from all over the world will come, will chant and dance, and a beautiful city will come up here. So it is happening. So some years back, I visited this place, and there many big group of devotees came, and they were all glorifying Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and they were discussing that Bhaktivinoda Thakur wanted devotee from all over the world to come here. So everybody said, you please tell the name of the country, which we are from. So somebody said, I am from America. Somebody said, I am from Sweden. Somebody said, I am from Norway. Somebody said, I am from Tanzania. Somebody said, I am from Nicaragua. Somebody said, I am from Fiji. And somebody said, China. And it took about half an hour, for everyone, to tell about their country names. I think at that day, I at least heard about 100 countries' name. Some of the country name I couldn't even remember, that such country exists. but the devotees from all over the world, was there on that day. Uh, so Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he's a very special personality, very very special personality. He's a Kamala Manjari, specially sent by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to revive his movement. So Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur, you know, he he revived the whole movement. He gave, he rejuvenated our Sankirtan movement. And then came Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. Again, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, day and night, he would pray, pray, and pray that, my Lord, how can I, spread your movement? How can I spread your glories? At one point, he said, my Lord, please send a ray of Vishnu, so that, your movement can be spread. And his prayers were answered in the form of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur. He is the ray of Vishnu. He Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he established the Sankirtan movement, rejuvenated, and then Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, he spread it, he gave the proper shape, and established the Gaudiya Mutt, and then spread the whole movement into the India. And then, he empowered Srila Prabhupada, our dear spiritual master, to spread it all over the world, and in each and town, each country of the world. But it all started from Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. It's a very empowered personality. He is a, in a true sense, the ideal devotee. Uh, and in his life is not something from, very old times when, Satyuga, Dwapara, Treta Yuga. It just happened 100 years back. So we can take, the inspiration from his life. And he being, our great grandfather, we should pray to him that, please, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, make me a, useful instrument in the hands of my spiritual master, that we can also contribute, into the spreading of the Sankirtan movement in whatever way, Lord wishes. And we can also very nicely perform our, worldly duties that we have been assigned to. So we should pray to Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur these particular blessings. And this is the picture that I just found. This is the place of Bhaktivinoda Thakur would take his rest. As we saw in that schedule, he would hardly sleep, about not more than 2.5 hours. But this is the place Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur would take his rest. And this is the picture. This is the view of, once you go to Swanand Seva Kunja, where Bhaktivinoda Thakur's house is there. From this house, this is how the Mayapur looks. So you can see right now, the temple of Vedic Planetarium is visible. But just nearby, is the Yoga Pit. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, must have seen, that effulgence coming out from this place. So it's a very beautiful picture here. And then we'll now move towards our second phase of our discussion today. It's the disappearance of Srila Haridas Thakur, whose disappearance we'll be celebrating tomorrow. So Haridas Thakur, he is the Namacharya, the Acharya, or the spiritual master authorized in the process of chanting the holy name. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came specially to inaugurate the Sankirtan movement, to inaugurate the chanting of the holy name. And he made Srila Haridas Thakur the Acharya of that process. So he is not in any way an ordinary person. Mahaprabhu personally made him the Namacharya. So Haridas Thakur, maybe we can spend our month, our whole life, discussing his glories. But within a short time that we have, we will just go to scratch, the little surface of the ocean, of the glories of Srila Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur, we understand from our scripture, actually he is Lord Brahma. So we see in the pastime of Krishna, that Lord Brahma, when he saw that After killing Aghasur, the Krishna and all these coward friends, they were eating together, and and they were eating so nicely, so casually that Krishna, the coward boys, they would feed their own remnants. Said Krishna, this pakoda is very nice. They will eat half, and so Krishna says pakoda is very nice, and the half they give it to Krishna, and Krishna would eat that. And then Lord Brahma, he is the Mahajan. Huh? The whole of our sampradaya, actually, he is our sampradaya acharya. From him, he is a whole Brahma Madhava Gaudiya Sampradaya, is starting. And he is the compiler of Brahma Samhita, and says Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead. Huh? But when he saw that same supreme personality of Godhead eating so casually, with these coward boys, and he said, is he really the supreme personality of Godhead? And he was really bewildered. So to test Krishna, Brahma, he stole the coward boys and calves. And then, Krishna, he expanded himself, into the same coward boys and calves. So for Brahma, it was a very small time, but for on the planet Earth, it became like a 1 year. So the whole 1 year, Krishna expanded himself into these calves and coward boys. And then Lord Brahma, he realized that he did a big mistake. That I shouldn't have tested Krishna, because he saw that only Krishna or the Supreme Lord can make the identical copy of the coward boys and calves that he stole. So he came, and he was repenting that, my Lord, I did mistake. I shouldn't have done it. Uh, so Lord forgave him. But then Lord Brahma, he said, my Lord, I cannot live with this thought that I did this, to you. So he said, Lord, I want to, be participate in your pastime, but I want to come in a very, in a birth where I have no prestige, I have no respect, I want to take a very low position. Uh, and he was so repentant, sincerely from his heart. So Krishna granted his wish. So he allowed him to participate when Krishna he came as Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So when Lord Chaitanya came, Srila Haridas Thakur, who is Lord Brahma himself, he appeared, about quite a few years back. Actually, he is considered to be the contemporary of Shilla Advaita Acharya. He's quite older than Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So, so Haridas Thakur actually appeared in a family of a Mohammedans, the Muslims. And according to tradition in those days, uh, uh, to take a birth in this, other families, it was considered very low. Mohammedan families were very low. And but Haridas Thakur, right from his birth, he was attracted to chanting the holy name of Krishna. I was hearing one class, it was told that it is not possible for him to not chant the name of Krishna. All the time he was chanting the name of Krishna. So, the whole of his life, the Srila Haridas Thakur, he was ridiculed. Uh, uh, these smart Brahmanas and so-called Hindu society never accepted him as the as the great devotee, and his own community, they thought he's the the enemy of their community. He said, "Why are you following the traditions of Hindus?" So they also ridiculed him. Uh, but Haridas Thakur was simply happy and chanting the name of Krishna. And there are many, incidents we can count that he been ridiculed so many times. We can just count two, where we can see his glories. So the ones, uh, these so-called smart Brahmana from Hindu community, they complain to the king, that he is a nuisance. He is creating all this trouble for the Hindu community. He should be punishing him. So so the king, he ordered that he should be dragged into the 22 marketplaces. Marketplaces in those days, they are like city centers. Go to the 22 city centers and beat Haridas Thakur. So when you beat them, he's shown as a criminal. So his all his reputation is lost. Uh, but all the soldiers would would take him to the different marketplaces and beat him. And soldiers say, stop chanting. Why are you chanting? You stop chanting. But he says, I cannot stop chanting. Uh, and then they were beating him and beating him and beating him. And at one point, soldiers were so tired. He said, Haridas Thakur, you please die. If you don't die, the king will, will be in trouble with the king. So Haridas Thakur, he said, because of me, you will be in trouble. So I must do something for you. So Haridas Thakur, he went into the samadhi. uh, so in that samadhi, his breathing stopped, his pulse stopped, and then he just appeared like a dead corpse. uh, so then the soldiers thought, that yes, now is the you know time when Haridas Thakur is dead. Let's dispose of his body. So the Hindu will not, cremate his body because they thought, he's not from our community, and Muslim said, he is our enemy. So nobody would take, care of his, so-called dead body. He was not dead anyway. So they threw his body, as a dead corpse in the river. And Haridas Thakur, he, after some time, he came out of samadhi, and he went to his, started preaching again. Uh, so many times, he was ridiculed, he was persecuted, but not a single time he complained. Uh, and he was simply happy in chanting the holy name of Krishna. Uh, so, so it is said, it takes one to know one. So the so-called smart Brahmanas in Hindu community, they could not appreciate Srila Haridas Thakur. But Advaita Acharya, and all the devotees, Gadadhar Pandit, and from the Navdeep, they could understand that he is a self-realized soul. He is not an ordinary person. So they would, very eager, always ready to associate with Srila Haridas Thakur. So there is a place, an incident, when Advaita Acharya, when he was doing a Shraddha ceremony for his ancestors. So one of the ceremonies that the first Shraddha goes to a very elevated person, who is assembled there. So Haridas Thakur, he gave that to Shila, Advaita Acharya gave that to Shila Haridas Thakur, honoring him as one of the, the most elevated person in that assembly. So the Gadadhar Pandit and Advaita Acharya and so many Srivas Thakur, they all would, respect very nicely Srila Haridas Thakur. But the other smart Hindu community would not, respect him. And in many other times, there is another pastime where, he was the, the local person called Ram Chandrakani tried to disrespute Srila Haridas Thakur. So he sent one, prostitute to defame Srila Haridas Thakur. So this prostitute will come, and Haridas Thakur, he would say, she would say, my dear, you know, lady, you are here, so if you want to associate with me, you have to wait for some time because my chanting is not over. So once my chanting is over, I'll fulfill all your desires. So Haridas Thakur, he would chant all night, and this lady, prostitute, she would hear the chanting of Haridas Thakur. So then when the chanting did not finish till the next morning, then the Haridas Thakur said, "You come next morning, next night, when then I'll fulfill your desires." He again came second time. Haridas Thakur said, I'm still not finished my chanting. So you come next day. And the third night when the lady came, this lady had heard Haridas Thakur for 2 or 3 nights, and then her heart completely changed. And she confessed to Haridas Thakur that, my dear Gurudev, I came here to defame you, but I can see you are a, great saintly personality. So Haridas Thakur said, I knew what was your plan, but I was just waiting to give you the holy name of Krishna. So this lady, she heard holy name from the mouth of Srila Haridas Thakur for 3 nights, and her life changed. Uh, her life changed in such a way that she gave up all her wealth that she had earned by these illicit means. She shaved her head off, and then Haridas, and actually she surrendered her life to Haridas Thakur, and she said, "What can I do?" So Haridas Thakur said, "Give up your wealth, and he just chant the name of Krishna." So she shaved her head off, and she became a disciple Haridas Thakur. And then Haridas Thakur, the place where he was chanting his name, he left this place, he said he can stay in this place. And Haridas Thakur left this place. So Haridas Thakur, we just heard, discussed that, he's a Namacharya. Namacharya, it is not an ordinary title that, that Mahaprabhu personally would give. Haridas Thakur, he was chanting was so pure that a person who just heard it for 2 or 3 nights, his heart is completely transformed. Haridas Thakur did not speak any philosophy, gave or any instruction. He was just chanting the name of Krishna, and the other person just heard it. So when we hear the holy name from a self-realized person, that has got the potency of transforming or changing our heart. So Haridas Thakur had that potency. That a lady who is a prostitute, and completely degraded, and at the bottom of the social ladder or social structure, Haridas Thakur, through his holy name, the purity of his chanting, he can lift that person and make and elevate him to a very high position of a selfless service and chanting the pure name of Krishna. So this a lady from this very degraded condition, she becomes a a self-surrendered, self-realized, completely surrendered devotee of Krishna. So that is the power of the chanting of Srila Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur, it is said he would chant 300,000 names of Krishna, which is 192 rounds a day. He would not just chant 300,000 times, 300,000 names of Krishna for once in a month or once in a year. Every day, he would chant 192 rounds. So I think, it takes about, if you do the mathematics, it takes about 22 hours to 20 hours a day, to chant 192 hours. So out in the rest of the time, Haridas Thakur, he was so much respected. Sanatan Goswami, Aditacharya would say, Haridas Thakur, you are so glorious that you are chanting the name of Krishna at the same time you're a preacher. So, how does Haridas Thakur manage all these things? We just saw the schedule of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. Haridas Thakur was also one of them. That he was chanting to about 20 to 22 hours a day the holy name of Krishna, and then the remaining time he would preach. So it is really bewildering that at what time he will take bath or eat prasadam or do other activities. It is really bewildering. Haridas Thakur would do that. So Haridas Thakur being a Namacharya, it is not an ordinary title that Mahaprabhu would give to anyone. Again, Haridas Thakur, he was the emblem of this third verse of Shikshashtakam. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, Trinadapi Sunichena, Tarorapi Sahishnuna, Amanina Manadena, Kirtaniya Sadahari. Being humbler than the tree, humbler than the blade of grass, tolerant than a tree, and ready to offer respects to everyone, and expecting none in the return. So Haridas Thakur was very tolerant. Throughout his life he was persecuted, but he never complained. And he was very humble, and he was humbler than blade of grass. Even though he was ridiculed, he never ever complained that, my Lord, why this is for me? Why am I, I have to go through this? And he was always ready to offer respects to everyone. When Mahaprabhu moved to Jagannath Puri, Haridas Thakur also, went with him. in those days, even till today, in Jagannath temple, those who are not born in Hindu family, they are not allowed. So Haridas Thakur, he moved to Jagannath Puri, but he never entered, into Jagannath Puri temple. And he didn't wanted, he never even asked, even he requested. He said, I didn't wanted to disturb anyone. So, he would just take the darshan of Jagannath, the take the darshan of Chakra from the temple of Jagannath, and he would be just happy with that. So Mahaprabhu, he gave him a residence in a place called, and that place is called Siddha Bakula. What picture you are seeing here, that place is still there in Jagannath Puri. There's a tree called Bakula tree, and Srila Haridas Thakur, he would stay there, and Mahaprabhu every day, he would go to the Jagannath temple, and after the taking a darshan of Jagannath, he would come to Srila Haridas Thakur's place in Siddha Bakul, and he would, give the Mahaprasad to Haridas Thakur. So once I heard from Radhanath Maharaj that, the Lord, who's everyone is going to take darshan in Jagannath Puri, the same Lord, there is no difference between Krishna and Jagannath and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. The same Lord would come out, and give this prasad to Srila Haridas Thakur. And Haridas Thakur, he would very lovingly, with a lot of respect and awe, he would accept that prasadam. So this place is still there in Jagannath Puri. Here there is very, very spiritually Sarchat placed. This is the place where Sri Haridas Thakur would chant do his bhajan. Chant is 192 rounds, and then 1 minute. Okay. Yes, so this is the Siddha Bakul. So now we'll come to the actually topic of the passing away of Sri Haridas Thakur, whose disappearance day is tomorrow. So Haridas Thakur, he would chant 192 rounds every day, and Mahaprabhu was so pleased with him, with his attitude, with his surrender, with his sincerity. But it so happened that now, he was getting old, and Mahaprabhu, he would come and meet Haridas Thakur every day. But now once, the Haridas Thakur was chanting, and Mahaprabhu's servant Govinda, he came, and he came up with some Mahaprasad of Jagannath. And he said, Haridas Thakur, I brought some Mahaprasad for you. So Haridas Thakur, he was so old, and he was losing all his bodily energies by this time. He said, Dear Govinda Prabhu, I cannot, accept the Mahaprasad because I have not finished my chanting yet. So he took very respectfully took Jagannath's Mahaprasad. He offered his very respectful obeisances to the Mahaprasad. And he took a small morsel of Mahaprasad, and then he said, I will eat the rest of it when I finish my chanting. And so then this news came to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Govinda Prabhu, he informed Chaitanya Mahaprabhu that my Lord Haridas Thakur, he is so getting old and he's not able to, he won't eat till he finishes chanting. So next day Mahaprabhu came, he said, my dear Haridas, he said, what is the news? I think this is how, he said, what is the news? And he said, how are you? And so Haridas Thakur, he did not, he said, my Lord, my body is completely fine, but my mind is not fine. And because my mind is not fine, I'm not able to chant my round. This is the humility of Haridas Thakur. He's saying the fault in him only. He's getting old, still he says there's a fault in him. So said, my Lord, because my mind is not right, that's why I'm not able to chant. So Mahaprabhu said, Haridas, you've chanted all of your life. The mission of spreading the glories of holy name is, you've done it. Now, you're getting old. You should, reduce your chanting. Haridas Thakur said, my Lord, I cannot do that. I cannot, I don't have that capacity to, reduce my chanting. So Mahaprabhu, he he respected his vow or his attitude. So, Haridas Thakur at that time, he said, "My Lord, I can see that, after some time, you will be leaving this world. So I don't want to go through that pain of, you leaving the world. I desire that I live before you." So Mahaprabhu, when he heard it, he said, "Haridas Thakur, you know, he said, if you leave, what will happen to me? I take great pleasure in taking your darshan. If you leave before me, then what will happen to me?" So Haridas Thakur gives a very beautiful answer. He said, "My Lord, don't create this illusion." He said, "I'm a very ordinary person. I'm just like a insect. If an insect dies, what loss is there to the world?" Says, "I'm a very insignificant person. Don't create this illusion that I'm a great person." So this is the humility of Haridas Thakur, a Namacharya, the Lord, who personally, installed him on the position of the Namacharya. He said, "I'm a very insignificant, like an insect. If I die, what is the loss to the world?" So the Mahaprabhu left on that day. The next day, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he came with all other devotees of the Jagannath Puri, like Sarup Damodar Goswami, Sarabham Bhattacharya, Kasheshwara Pandit, and all the devotees, Mahaprabhu's all intimate devotees. They all came to this place called Siddha Bakula. And then, Mahaprabhu, uh, you know, he came and he said, "Haridas Thakur, what is the news?" And Haridas Thakur said, "My Lord, whatever is your desire is the news." And then Mahaprabhu, he he asked this Damodar Goswami to start chanting, to start kirtan, and they were all you know, loudly chanting the holy name of Krishna. At that time, the Haridas Thakur, he took the feet of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and he pressed it on his chest very tightly and started chanting, "Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Sri Krishna Chaitanya." And in this loud kirtan by Sarup Damodar Goswami, who is Lalita herself, in that wonderful atmosphere, Srila Haridas Thakur gave up his body, and the devotees were chanting so loudly, so loudly. And then Mahaprabhu, he picked up his body, picked up the body of Haridas Thakur, and he was, tears flowing like a rivers from his eyes, and he was dancing and dancing, taking the body of Srila Haridas Thakur, and then he was walking, in the streets of, on the streets of Jagannath Puri. So this is, the love of Lord for his devotee. Uh, that Haridas Thakur, he gave up his life in the mission of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and Mahaprabhu, he's carrying his body, his in fact his dead corpse, into the streets of Jagannath Puri, the same Jagannath Puri where he was not allowed, into the temple of Jagannath Puri. And Mahaprabhu, he was dancing, and dancing and dancing and dancing, carrying the body of Shri Haridas Thakur. And then I think the devotee said, "My Lord, it is a time, to do the last rites for Shri Haridas Thakur." So I heard, that kind of a container was created, made like a spaceship, and then, then the whole procession was passing through to Jagannath Puri, and everybody took the last darshan of Shri Haridas Thakur, and and then they brought Shri Haridas Thakur at the on the on the on the beach, on the ocean, on the shore, and they dig a hole into the ocean, and then all the devotees, you can see in this picture, the thousands and thousands of people, they all gathered, they're chanting the holy name of Krishna. Then they placed, the body of Haridas Thakur in this hole. No, before that, they took the body of Haridas Thakur, into the ocean, and then they bathed the feet of Haridas Thakur with the ocean water. And all the devotees, they took the Charnamrit, of Haridas Thakur's uh, water that washed Haridas Thakur's feet. And then Mahaprabhu, he placed the body of Haridas Thakur in this Samadhi hall. And then, all this wonderful paraphernalia of Jagannath was brought, Jagannath's Maha garland, the so many paraphernalia that Jagannath uses. It was sent, as the it was kept with the Haridas Thakur. And then Mahaprabhu and all the devotees personally, they covered his body with the sand. And then, and then the whole tomb was created, and they put a mark, on the tomb that this is a Samadhi of Srila Haridas Thakur. And then Mahaprabhu, he and all the devotees, they went and took, their bath in the ocean. So on that day, Mahaprabhu proclaimed that today this ocean has become, most auspicious place. Why? Because Haridas Thakur's Samadhi is here, and this ocean has washed the body of Haridas Thakur. So of course, the ocean at the Jagannath Puri is anyway very, auspicious and in a holy dham, holy place. But it become more holy, because Haridas Thakur's Samadhi is there. Haridas Thakur's the devotee took bath after his Samadhi. So that Samadhi is still there. This is the picture what you see here. So this is the Samadhi Mandir of Srila Haridas Thakur. Again, very spiritually surcharged place. If you go there, it is so easy to chant Krishna's name there. I chanted few rounds when I went last time. Completely, a spiritual place. Chanting just becomes natural, when you visit this place. So this is the place, where Haridas Thakur Samadhi is there. And then Lord Chaitanya, after Haridas Thakur's Samadhi, he was put into Samadhi. And then Lord Chaitanya personally, he went to the shopkeepers of Jagannath Puri, that asking for, begging, that please donate some prasad in the honor of Srila Haridas Thakur, because Mahaprabhu wanted to, offer a feast to all the devotees. So Mahaprabhu was personally begging from shop to shop. See, this is what Lord does for his devotees. When we give up our life for Krishna, Krishna wants to glorify his own devotee. He wants to beg for his devotee. We see in Mahabharata, he becomes a charioteer of Arjuna. Haridas Thakur, he gave up completely his life in the service of the Lord. Now the Lord is begging, for Haridas Thakur. All the shopkeepers, they would give profusely to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Please take, please take. And wonderful, the prasadam, good quantity of prasadam was, collected. And then all the devotees, they were sit into the rows for the feast of Srila Haridas Thakur. And then Mahaprabhu would personally serve them. And he was so enthusiastic, and he was so, much wanted to glorify Haridas Thakur, that he would serve each person the prasadam of quantity that 5 people could eat. And then, everybody was served by Shilla, by Mahaprabhu. And then I think it was not Sarvabhaum, it was Saurabh Goswami said, my Lord, you please take prasadam, because these devotees will not start taking prasadam if you don't eat. So then Mahaprabhu, he sat down, and all the devotees, started serving. Now who is serving the prasadam? The most intimate devotees of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Saurabh Goswami, who is the Lalita in herself. Jagadanand Pandit, Kashishwar Pandit, Shankar Pandit, Sarabham Bhattacharya, great scholar. Because serving prasadam, to the devotee is a wonderful service that one can do. And that too for, in the glories of, to celebrate the disappearance of Srila Haridas Thakur. So all these great devotees, they were serving prasadam. Then all they were fed very sumptuously. And then, all the devotees, remembering the wonderful life of Srila Haridas Thakur, they went their home, and Mahaprabhu also, went to Gambhira, where he was living. So, in my little way, I heard something about the glories of Haridas Thakur. I repeated. I don't think it is enough. In the right way, I narrated the whole pastime. I request all the devotees, that maybe you can, tomorrow while we are celebrating his disappearance day, meditate on his life, hear some nice classes on his lifetime, and hear from various of our acharyas, from Bhakti Charu Maharaj, from Shivram Maharaj, from Jay Pataka Maharaj. There are so many classes out there on ISKCON Desire Tree. Please go and hear the wonderful life of Srila Haridas Thakur. So Haridas Thakur, being a Namacharya, he wants us to chant the name of Krishna, very nicely, very purely. So we should pray, today and tomorrow, that my dear Haridas Thakur, we are, we take shelter at your lotus feet. That may we get, some taste, the part of the taste that you are relishing in chanting the name of Krishna. Maybe have some taste of that same taste, um, and make our life successful. So I stop here. I'm very grateful to all the devotees and especially Gonatraj Prabhu and everyone for giving me this opportunity to speak about Haridas Thakur and Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. My obeisances to all of you. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna.
Krishna Prabhu, thank you very much. Anybody has any comments or any questions? I know there were a couple of comments from Sumadhura Radhika Mataji. She's always appreciating. Whenever I see the comments from Sumadhura Radhika Mataji, that I will always learn something how to appreciate devotees. Yeah. So thank you so much, Mataji, for those wonderful comments. Let's have a look at on the YouTube to see if anybody has said anything there. Nothing there. Just 1 second. Yes. Well, see. Can't see any comments on YouTube. Prabhu, thank you so much for that wonderful talk. It is very enlivening, and thank you for taking us to Mayapur, and especially to Swananda Sukadha Kunda. I remember being there at least a good couple of times and spending some time there. So you kind of, took me there again. Sitting here, I could visualize everything there. So thank you very much. And also thank you for taking us to Jagannath Puri, Siddha Bakul. I remember many years ago, so giving a class on Haridas Thakur at Siddha Bakul when we went to Yatra many years ago. So I remember that, and thank you so much for those wonderful pastimes. Really appreciate it. So for the devotees Manchester, as RadhaMohan Prabhu mentioned, so tomorrow is disappearance day, Srila Haridas Thakur disappearance day. So please take time to read or listen about that. So then we are completing August. I can't believe that, most of this 2020 is gone in lockdown. So now entering into slowly September, and schools are reopened. I know that families are getting busier. I can see from my side, my children are getting ready to go back to schools. Yeah, so again, there will be classes on Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. This Saturday, coming Saturday, being the first Saturday of the month in September. So we will have the morning Bhagavatam class dedicated to Mahajan. And the Mahajan for the September month is Bali Maharaj. The reason I chose is that because we had Vamandev appearance day yesterday, so I thought it's a good idea to talk a little bit about Bali Maharaj. So that will be done on Saturday. So that's it. Thank you very much, everyone, for taking time. Again, once again, RadhaMohan Prabhu, thank you for your time and His Grace RadhaMohan Prabhu Ki Jai. That's it from me. Thank you.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.